It was meant to be just another heated exchange in the National Assembly. Members of Parliament were preparing themselves for the familiar rituals, sharp wordplay, policy debates, and, as always, a sprinkling of personal barbs that define South African parliamentary proceedings. Yet, no one anticipated the extraordinary disruption that would unfold that day, nor the words that Gayton McKenzie, the fiery politician and leader of the Patriotic Alliance, would unleash upon the chamber. Tall, resolute, and unapologetically outspoken, McKenzie rose to address the assembly, his presence commanding the attention of every MP. The tension in the room thickened as he spoke words that, until that moment, had only been whispered behind closed doors by opposition members. Ramaphosa must be arrested. Enough is enough. The declaration struck the chamber like lightning, instantly shocking MPs into an uneasy alertness. We cannot construct a new South Africa on the ashes of corruption, betrayal, and lies, McKenzie proclaimed, his voice reverberating off the walls of the chamber. The reaction was immediate and explosive. ANC benches erupted into a cacophony of outrage, disbelief, and stunned silence. Some MPs shouted over him, demanding that he retract his words, while others sat frozen, as if the air had been violently expelled from the room. Within moments, parliamentary decorum disintegrated entirely, and the chamber descended into chaos. Pandemonium ruled the floor as members confronted one another, trading accusations and insults, each vying to assert dominance in a space that had never seemed so volatile. McKenzie's audacious call for the president's arrest was not made lightly. His accusations came on the heels of weeks of mounting pressure on the presidency, fueled by leaked documents and persistent legal rumors implicating Ramaphosa in a range of questionable activities. Allegations of shady financial transactions, abuses of constitutional power, and the notorious Ophelia Farm scandal, centered on undeclared foreign currency purportedly stored on the president's private game farm, had been circulating for months. Yet the situation reached a tipping point with the revelation of an international inquiry into Ramaphosa's overseas dealings. The investigation reportedly focuses on undeclared assets, offshore financial flows, and potential money laundering operations, any of which could place the sitting president in grave legal jeopardy. McKenzie claimed to have first-hand access to evidence implicating Ramaphosa in clandestine offshore deals and secret bank accounts. These were serious allegations, but the presidency had either dismissed them outright or avoided them entirely, choosing instead to hide behind technicalities and political grandstanding. The people of South Africa deserve better, McKenzie bellowed, his voice cutting through the chaos of the chamber. They deserve a leader who is not evading arrest warrants or hiding behind executive privilege. His words did not merely echo within the parliamentary walls, they spilled into the public sphere, igniting discussion and outrage across the nation. The immediate impact was most pronounced within the African National Congress itself. Weakened over the years by internal factional struggles, corruption scandals, and a gradual erosion of public confidence, the ANC suddenly found itself in crisis mode. McKenzie's speech laid bare the growing divisions within the party, forcing members to confront the reality of a president whose conduct was increasingly seen as a political liability. Behind closed doors, some senior ANC officials quietly acknowledged that the scandals surrounding Ramaphosa were eroding the party's authority, potentially jeopardizing its standing in the lead-up to the next election. Yet not all voices within the ANC called for accountability. Many rallied to defend the president, branding McKenzie's statements as treasonous, unfounded, and a calculated attempt at political opportunism designed to destabilize the governing party. The internal fracture went beyond mere ideology, encompassing strategic, regional, and generational divides. Veteran members, those who had fought in the liberation struggle, viewed Ramaphosa as a stabilizing figure, a flawed but necessary balancer whose removal could create a dangerous leadership vacuum. In contrast, younger, reform-minded MPs grew increasingly restless. They argued that maintaining ties with a scandal-ridden leader was political suicide and that the ANC's survival depended on a decisive break from compromise figures like Ramaphosa. Efforts to restore order in the National Assembly were futile. The Speaker attempted repeatedly to calm the chamber, but the intensity of the confrontation had already reached a critical threshold. MPs shouted across the floor, labeling each other traitors to the Constitution, defenders of criminals, or mere performers in a grotesque spectacle of political showmanship. For the first time in years, the chamber resembled a powder keg of raw emotion, anger, and high-stakes brinkmanship, all centered on a single individual, President Sir Ramaphosa. Despite the uproar, McKenzie refused to recant his statements. "I spoke what millions of South Africans think but are too intimidated to say," he asserted. His defiance invigorated opposition benches and energized presidential critics who had been demanding accountability for months, yet had been met with silence. In this political firestorm, one of the most striking elements was the president's continued silence. Ramaphosa had not publicly addressed McKenzie's accusations, the so-called evidence, or the growing calls for transparency, leaving speculation to flourish unchecked. Questions multiplied. Was the president remaining silent because of pending lawsuits? Was the ANC engaged in secretive damage control efforts? Or did his silence signal weakness, culpability, or something even more troubling? As the uncertainty mounted, civil society groups, youth movements, and local community leaders refused to wait for official statements. Many began organizing protests, planning marches to the union buildings to demand accountability and transparency. One activist declared, "We cannot be led by a man who hides in the shadows. If he's innocent, let him face the music. If he's guilty, he must go." Across the nation, citizens who had once been hesitant to voice their opinions became vocal. Social media platforms were flooded with hashtags demanding Ramaphosa's resignation. Talk radio programs, town hall meetings, and public forums buzzed with outrage, disbelief, and a demand for answers. Ordinary citizens, small business owners, university students, and pensioners joined the chorus. Entrepreneurs lamented the president's failure to stabilize an economy battered by unemployment and rolling blackouts. Students expressed frustration over rising costs and bleak job prospects, insisting that the country could no longer afford a leader mired in scandal. Pensioners, some of whom had endured apartheid and placed trust in the ANC, felt betrayed by a party that once promised dignity and freedom, but now appeared engulfed in internal corruption. Whether supporters of Ramaphosa or not, South Africans across the spectrum demanded answers. Questions that had long been deferred or ignored were finally being asked openly and repeatedly. The public court was now in session, leaving little room for those in positions of power to hide from scrutiny. The story continues to develop, with further statements, denials, and political maneuvering expected to unfold in the coming days. Yet history has demonstrated that, no matter how deeply buried, truth eventually emerges. The uncertainty surrounding South Africa extends beyond any single individual. It tests the resilience of the country's democratic institutions and their ability to hold the powerful accountable. At its core, the controversy raises a crucial question: can the ANC, once a symbol of liberation and integrity, still uphold the values that earned it public trust, or has it become a party defined by scandal and political survival? In the National Assembly, the events of that day will be remembered as a turning point. Gayton McKenzie's bold declaration shattered the routine of parliamentary debates, igniting a chain reaction that reverberated through the halls of power and into the streets. His fearless challenge to the presidency exposed vulnerabilities that had long been ignored, highlighting not just individual accountability, but the structural and ethical challenges facing the nation. The ANC, caught between defending a controversial leader and responding to a growing public outcry, now faces unprecedented pressure. Senior members must navigate a labyrinth of internal factions and strategic considerations, weighing the risks of loyalty against the demands of a restless and increasingly critical citizenry. Meanwhile, young reformist MPs push for a radical re-evaluation of leadership priorities, arguing that adherence to principle is vital if the party is to survive. Beyond parliament, the nation itself is in flux. Grassroots movements, student organizations, and ordinary citizens are mobilizing in ways rarely seen before. Social media campaigns and public demonstrations serve as modern-day fora for expressing frustration, demanding accountability, and asserting the collective voice of a population unwilling to accept political opacity. The ripple effects of McKenzie's words have made it clear that the era of passive observation may be over. South Africans are now insisting on transparency, responsibility, and justice. At the heart of this unfolding political drama is a fundamental question about governance and accountability. Ramaphosa's tenure, already marred by allegations of financial misconduct and constitutional abuses, has become a focal point for broader debates about leadership, ethics, and the future of the country. Whether he responds to the accusations or continues his silence, the implications are profound, shaping not only the trajectory of the ANC but the nation as a whole. What began as a single moment of parliamentary courage has transformed into a nationwide reckoning. The intricate web of political intrigue, scandal, and public dissent now envelopes South Africa, demanding answers from those who wield power and inspiring ordinary citizens to demand accountability in ways both visible and symbolic. The question is no longer whether one man is culpable, but whether the institutions designed to safeguard democracy can withstand the pressure of public scrutiny and maintain integrity in times of political crisis. The uncertainty continues to grow, but one thing is clear: South Africa is at a crossroads. Its democratic institutions, the credibility of its leadership, and the resilience of its citizenry are being tested like never before. In the coming days, the world will watch as statements, denials, and revelations unfold, revealing not only the truth about one individual, but the broader capacity of a nation to confront corruption, uphold accountability, and defend the principles upon which it was founded. History reminds us that the truth, no matter how deeply buried, will eventually emerge into the light. And in South Africa, that truth now stands at the center of a debate that will define the future of the nation, its leadership, and the very essence of its democratic institutions. This is no longer simply a political controversy, it is a defining moment for the country, testing whether the powerful can be held accountable and whether the institutions of governance can truly serve the people rather than the interests of the few.